All right, Cody Ertman, you are on Driven to Ride. How are you, sir?
I'm great, Mark. How are you doing?
I'm doing well, doing well. Thank you for being here. We appreciate it. Um, let's just start from the beginning. What is kind of your claim to fame? What do maybe people most know you for?
Oh, God. Claim to fame is quite the stretch, but people know me at the Chip as the media guy. So my job is media and public relations, making sure all the traditional media get what they need and all the influencers and content creators get what they need as well. So that's
Yeah.
my main focus at the Chip.
Okay. And when you say the chip, what do you mean by that?
I mean, the Sturgis Buffalo Chip, the original and best Sturgis Rally music and motorcycle venue around.
There you go. It's like you've got that memorized almost.
Yeah, it's strange how that works.
Yeah. Yeah. So how long have you been involved with the Buffalo Chip doing the media stuff?
So I've been working at the Chip for 5 years. We just finished my fifth rally, and man, it's a blast. It's such a cool gig to have. I got to say, I mean, I couldn't imagine working in a marketing job for a dentist or something or an eye doctor. This is where it's at for sure. Music, motorcycles, can't beat it.
Yeah. Yeah. So were you into motorcycles before you started with the chip then?
So I was in a way. I right out of college, I got a job for a motorcycle magazine, American Bagger magazine.
Okay.
And I worked there for several years, really getting a feel for the industry and everything.
Yeah.
So that's how I came into motorcycles originally. And then that eventually evolved to me going to the other side of media at the Chip, which I prefer this side a little better, less deadlines and whatnot. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
that's kind of how I got into the industry to start with, was just, dumb luck, getting a good job right out of college at a motorcycle magazine.
So do you ride motorcycles or not really? Maybe a little?
I do. So I'm actually pretty late to the game for someone who had been working in the motorcycle industry for almost 10 years.
Sure.
I just started riding this year.
Oh, wow.
I just got my first bike this year. So, and I just got it fixed right before rally. So I hadn't even had much of a chance to ride it yet. But
I got to
I'll
ask,
get there. We got a long fall.
Is it a Harley?
It's not a Harley. It is a Kawasaki Vulcan. So
Okay.
Sorry about that, but got a hell of a deal on it. So can't beat that.
Yeah, well, Vulcan's a good motorcycle. I rented one in Austin, Texas, and I heard I rode my Yamaha XSR to the rally this year, and I heard that Damon's got a Ducati Scrambler, so we're all outcasts.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, not everyone at the rally has a Harley, to be honest. It's, kind of a melting pot anymore. It used to be all Harley all the time. I remember when I was a kid. Now it's, you see Ducati, you see Yamaha, Suzuki. Saw a lot of those this year. It's wild.
Yeah, I saw some BMW adventure bikes, which I think it's GS 1200s. I was pretty surprised to see. So there is really kind of a bit of everything. And you hinted there a little bit, it was different when you were a kid. You're actually a South Dakota native, right?
That's right. Yeah, I grew up in the Lead Deadwood area, Black Hills my whole life, live over in Spearfish now, work at the Chip, obviously. So, yeah, I've been living the rally life for, 33 years and loving it, really.
Yeah. So did you grow up like going to Sturgis with family or like with friends or anything like that? Or?
Yeah, some of my first memories were, early teenage years. Me and my buddies would go down to Sturgis just to see, the shenanigans, see what it was all about.
Right.
And, we were going to concerts at the Chip as teenagers too. And it was always great because, it's a pretty rural area around here. So we don't get a lot of big concerts.
Right.
So the Chip was it. So I remember seeing like Motley Crue and Stone Sour on the same night at the Chip when I was 18, and the Scorpions farewell tour that same year. Farewell tour. They're still actually touring. That was, 15 years ago. But so yeah, I've been involved in the rally my whole life. I've worked a couple rally jobs through high school, and just it's been a huge part of my life. And obviously now I make a living on it. So
yeah,
it's important.
Well, and I think that's something that a lot of people maybe don't think about is that, the rally, and the Chip, but the rally as a whole is kind of the big thing that happens around there and really supports a lot of businesses and people there, right?
Absolutely. The economic impact is insane. The tourism impact is insane. It's, tourism's South Dakota's second biggest industry next to
Wow.
agriculture.
Mm-hmm.
And a Sturgis Rally is a big part of that, a huge part of that, actually. I mean, we're bringing in, a couple 100,000 people to a state that only has a couple 100,000 people most of the year. So,
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people make their living this way. And a lot of people, rely on these 2 weeks to really make it through the year.
Yeah. I didn't think about that where maybe the state population, I guess, effectively doubles every rally.
Basically, I mean, I think we have 800,000 people, and, the numbers for the rally are kind of all over the place and maybe
Sure.
a little inflated, but it's still substantial to bring that many people in for a short period of time.
Yeah. Do you know how many people come into the chip every year, or is that classified?
I do not. I don't know that it's classified, but it's very hard to tell because you'll have people that stay there all week long, thousands and thousands of people that stay there all the time. And then you have people coming in for shows, people coming in to check it out, people going to the Crossroads, our free access area, just to hang out for the day. So it's really hard with people in and out. You really never know how many people are on property at once. It's wild to think about, but yeah, there's no set number I could give you, unfortunately.
Well, tell me, let's go back a little bit, 5 years. What was like working? I mean, you're kind of grew up with the Sturgis Rally and going to the chip and everything, but what was it like working your first, like, your first full-time gig at the chip that first year?
That first year was a wild one. So my first year was 2020. And if you remember, that was kind of a tumultuous year for the whole world.
If you remember, yeah.
Yeah. It was a wild time to start a new job. And because I started right in March, right when COVID really took off.
Okay.
And that rally was special for the Buffalo Chip too, because we were the only event that was still held. We were, as far as I know, the only large music festival held in 2020.
Wow.
So we got all sorts of attention from national media, from everybody. It was a wild first year, no doubt, but it was a lot of fun. I mean, people were still stoked to come out and have a good time because they've been cooped up in their house forever. And it really showed that like that genuine human connection was actually very important. So it felt right what we were doing. It was just a very strange time, but it was great to provide those people with a place to go, a place to hang out. And, looking back, well, even then we knew it, like outside events were safe at the time. And it just, it was important and it was a lot of fun. And I'll never forget it for sure, because no rally has been like that since, but
sure.
It was a good time.
How was it kind of different compared to like, 22, 23 and this past one?
It was definitely smaller. So that was probably the main thing, but a lot of people, you could tell they had been cooped up. And then in 2021 was pretty similar. That was the night or the year we had the huge Kid Rock show.
Sure.
People were ready for a rock show, but a lot of people, would hang out in their campground or in their campsite as opposed to, at the bars doing body shots off each other and whatnot. But I mean, it was certainly different. And then you're, always in the back of your head, you're thinking about getting sick or,
Sure.
what would go on. But, not a lot of people got sick. I didn't get sick. It was a good time, but it was
nice.
A little different, a little less crowd.
Yeah, the thing that I noticed really is it seems like the overall kind of vibe is that people, save all year or wait all year to get away from, their everyday, their high stress job, the same routine or whatever, and they can either party like as hard as they want to, or they can just sit and chill. I mean, one of the guys that I camp next to, he's like, I'm just going to go to Bikini Beach and hang out, and that's what I'm going to do for like 3 days. I didn't see his motorcycle move for probably 3-4 days, and he's just like relaxing. It seems to be like everybody just goes there to relax or party and have a good time, and nobody wants to necessarily get in each other's way.
Yeah, absolutely. And, that's one thing cool about the place is you can literally have any vacation you want. If you want to relax at the beach and not ride your bike, you can do that. If you want to ride all the time, you can do that. If you want to party all the time, you can do that. Or you could do, kind of what most people do, was a mix of all three.
Right.
But yeah, you can make it whatever you want. And that's part of our goal at the Chip, is to try and, give people whatever vacation they choose.
Yeah. Which makes it kind of part of what the biggest party anywhere is all about. And
Mm-hmm.
So you kind of touched on it a little bit at the beginning, dealing with the media and content creators and stuff. I mean, what do you do, you know, not necessarily during the week or the 2 weeks of the rally, but what do you do kind of the rest of the year to prep for the rally?
Sure. I mean, the rest of the year, we have a staff of about 20 people who work year round.
Hmm.
And then it, balloons to several hundred during the rally.
Sure.
But, throughout the year, we're getting ready for next year. Basically, we're planning the events, we're doing our marketing pushes. We're selling passes all year long. So we're
Oh,
trying to keep
wow.
people engaged, remembering about us, looking forward to the vacation that they're going to have in August, and getting people excited for the bands we bring in, and getting the bands ready and getting everything ready and together, so when people show up in August, you know we're not you know totally lost, and we're ready for them.
Yeah. So it almost takes, or effectively does take, all year to kind of get ready. So like when you clean up and the last person leaves and the chip's done for the rally or whatever, you're already setting up for next year, huh?
That's exactly right. I mean, it's late August and we're already working on next year,
Yeah.
and that's the way it is. And an event this large takes a whole lot of work. I mean, most people have thrown someone a birthday party or, planned a wedding and
Sure.
whatnot. And you think about the stress involved in those types of events, multiply it by dozens, because we
Yeah.
have dozens of events fit into 2 weeks. So, like, you can imagine, the stress of one event multiplied, I don't know how many times, 50 times.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what we deal with. But I mean, at the same time, it's a lot of fun to plan these events. It's not miserable, like, oh dang, I gotta, you know, make a meme to keep people engaged and make them laugh, or
Yeah.
oh dang, I have to plan a charity ride that's gonna raise hundreds of thousands of dollars for charity. It's never horrible. It's never miserable. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah. Yeah. What would you say for you is the most part about either planning it or the most fun of the 2 weeks of the rally?
Gosh, I don't know. Planning it's a lot of fun to see people getting excited. It'll be right now, even I'm getting messages, when can we buy for next year?
Wow.
What's the news for next year?
Yeah.
What bands are we seeing? I see that a lot. And I always, it makes me happy that people are already thinking about it. And then during the week, God, there's so much. It sounds a little cheesy to say, but the people,
Hmm.
both the returning staff that are, just temporary, it's great to see them every year. It's really fun catching up with everybody. And then the people that come back every year. I mean, this is like a repeat vacation for most people.
Sure.
So a lot of our, campers, you get to know them and you get to learn their stories and see them each year. It's just a lot of fun. Um, Also the music. I mean, like I mentioned before, we don't get a lot of music around here. So to have a 9-day music festival is, pretty special. And to be a part of that is even more special. And, the first thing you do when you're having beers with your buddies in the garage, what do? You put on some music. You need
Yeah.
music for a party. So, I mean, just having music is an amazing, amazing thing for a big party like ours. And then obviously motorcycles, you can't beat it, man.
Yeah. Yeah. That is definitely a big part of it. Um,
Hmm.
and it's just so wild to see, we talked about it a little bit before, but all the different kinds of motorcycles. And like, I think I've seen a variation of every Harley Davidson motorcycle ever made, but then, you think you've seen a million baggers, go through the road or down the road or whatever. And then you see some crazy custom that's just looks like it's like pulled out of a magazine or something that somebody's actually riding like on the Spearfish loop or something. And it's like, man, hell yeah,
Hmm.
you're going for it. It's very cool to see.
It is very cool. And yeah, like you said, I mean, you have every type of motorcycle, and custom culture is huge around here year round. But, when Sturgis comes through, obviously everybody and their dog, every custom builder around brings what they've been working on all year long
Yeah.
just for the Sturgis Rally. So you see a lot of bike debuts. I mean, our motorcycles is art exhibit at the Chip. We had 5 never before seen bike unveils. I
Hmm.
mean, that's unheard of. Not seen on social media, not seen anywhere. I mean, you don't get that anywhere but, Sturgis or at the Chip.
Yeah, tell me about the motorcycles as art exhibit a little bit because, um, obviously there's a lot of things going on at the Buffalo Chip. There's music and there's bars and there's food and there's camping and all that kind of stuff. But um, the motorcycles as art exhibit is kind of like a quiet corner, but still just as cool as a part of the Chip. So, talk to me a little bit about that exhibit.
Yeah, the Motorcycles with Art exhibit is so cool. And like you said, it's kind of tucked away. It's in our event center next to the amphitheater. And you walk, if you come in the East Gate, you walk right through it. But it's a world class art exhibit
Hmm.
basically with motorcycles. So it's, we have art all along the walls, prints, photography, paintings, metalwork, everything like that all around. And it's a huge room. And then motorcycles, custom motorcycles all throughout. And many of them are being debuted in Sturgis and from some of the best custom builders in the world. I mean, for the longest time, Michael Lichter, everybody knows Michael Lichter, the legendary photographer, ran this show, and he is still heavily involved in it. It got to be so much work for him bringing in all these people that he didn't get to enjoy the rally. So he's like, you know what? I'm going to pass it on. So Kevin Dunworth, Savannah Rose, the two curators, have done an amazing job for the last 2 years making this show world class, and it's just something you have to see. So if you come by, go to the East End right before a concert, just walk through there and see some of the coolest motorcycles you'll ever see.
Yeah, it's very cool, especially to be able to see them like up close and personal. You can, get your face right in there and check out, just how these bikes are put together. It's very, very cool.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of enjoying the rally, though, I mean, you mentioned we were talking when we were there that you kind of, well, you don't kind of, you essentially live at the Chip for those 2 weeks. Do you get to like, kind of lay back and enjoy like the concerts or any of the rally, or are you working basically all the time?
Oh, I mean, it's a mix of both. I like to say I'm always on the clock and never on the clock because, I
Sure.
mean, you could be having if you and I were having a beer together, I'm technically working, but I'm also technically enjoying the rally.
Sure.
So, no, I definitely take time to have fun, to see the shows. There are certain bands I can't miss, no matter how busy I am. So I'll make time. But no, you hang out with, staff, with customers, with whoever, with media influencers, whoever, and just have a good time. So it's an interesting mix, and it's really hard not to get wrapped up, even if you're answering emails at 1 in the morning, because that's your only time to do it,
Right.
or whatever other work you're doing that might not be as glamorous as people think working in a music festival is like. Uh, yeah, you make time to hang out, you make time to have fun because you see other people having fun and you can't help yourself. I mean, you get sucked into it, and
It
that's
does
the
get
way
a
it
little
should be.
infectious. Yeah, it gets a little
Yeah,
infectious. And I
for
imagine
sure.
like the staff that you, whether it's the year-round staff or the seasonal staff that come through, I mean, that's probably got to be like a big extended family for you.
Oh, absolutely. And each year, it's kind of strange how much more bonded you get with these people you really only see for 2 weeks out of the year because you're all
Sure.
experiencing the same thing. It's very much like almost like summer camp but for adults,
I believe it.
and
Yeah.
that goes for staff and that goes for these customers we get to know too. It's just, hugs all around when they show up and hugs all around when they leave. It's great.
Yeah. And you say summer camp, and that kind of gave me a bit of a memory about Camp Zero, which
Mm.
um, was quite a sight to see. How did that come about? What's the story with Camp Zero?
Camp Zero came about, a couple years before I started, but
Okay.
the origin story is really interesting. So Camp Zero, the property, is right next to the Buffalo Chip, just across the road.
Hmm.
I mean, it's technically part of the Buffalo Chip still, but they wanted to give a place to people that wanted like an old school rally feel. So it's very much, dirt drags, very much mini bike games and mini bike stuff. Basically, a place where you could go, shenanigan your heart out and just have a great time. I mean, it's such a cool place. You have a 100-year-old barn there as a bar, and
Right.
then a racetrack, mini bikes you could take out. It's just a lot of fun. So, yeah, it started 2018, I think it was. And from there, it's just really exploded. And it's just such a good time over there.
Yeah, I caught a mini bike race through the barn, which was
Hmm.
pretty wild, and people trying to keep water in cups on helmets and just eating it, or trying to, you know, do donuts with these things. It was wild, man. It was a really cool thing to see. So, um,
Yeah, it is a lot of fun. I mean, and there's nothing wrong with like the traditional rally or what it's kind of transformed into, but that's definitely, and you hear this all the time, definitely the kind of place where old school lives on. It reminds you of rallies back in the day where people were just camping out in parks and doing burnouts in the dirt. It's just very cool, and because of that, it seems to attract a younger demographic of
mhm.
motorcyclists. So I feel like Camp Zero is a big part of the future of the chip, and a lot of people think that as well.
Yeah, let's talk about that a little bit more. It's kind of a two-part question. Growing up with the rally kind of in your backyard, essentially, now working it and looking towards the future of it. How is, the rally and the Buffalo Chip evolved over the years, and what do you think is coming up in the future? Kind of broad strokes.
Sure. So yeah, a lot has changed in the rally since when I was a kid, and particularly the Buffalo Chip has changed a lot. I mean, you look at old photos, there was, a bunch of dudes. There was no women there. Yeah, there's this really great photo from '83, and it's the crowd. And I think you could see one woman and just a
Jeez.
ton of dudes. And a big part of what changed that was getting, running water, bathrooms, electric, really brought out more of, couples. Women themselves are now 20% of the riding population.
Mhm.
So that's a huge part of what we do here too. We have biker bells, whole Women's Day, everything. So that's changed a lot in even recent years. A lot more women riding bikes, a lot more women showing up. And, the venue, we try and change things every single year or improve on what we can. A big one that we've been working on for the last couple of years doing in pieces has been asphalting the roads or
Mm.
refinishing the roads.
Okay.
And obviously people really love that. It has really cut down on the dust. It's really, added to the experience. And it's weird to think about that just paving a road would make all that difference, but it really does. And
Sure.
yeah, we're trying to change things constantly. Rod Woodruff, the owner, he's, constant and never ending improvement, I think is what he says. So everything you can change that needs to be changed, he tries to implement.
Yeah. Yeah. Damon mentioned, talking about taking risks every year, and whether they're small risks or bigger risks, is you always got to take some kind of a risk every year. And I think this year was the bare knuckle boxing, which you guys necessarily weren't sure how it was going to go over.
That's exactly right. We really weren't sure how that was going to go over, but it went over so well. It was such an amazing production that BKFC put on. The crowd was huge. The fights were awesome. I really got sucked into it. I was really,
It was cool,
but
man. It was cool.
it was cool. It certainly was a risk to bring them out because, I mean, it's something that this area doesn't really get a lot of fights. So we weren't sure how it would work out, but man, it was a hit. So that
Yeah.
one definitely worked out. There's been a few things in the past that haven't quite worked out as well that were risks, but that one definitely worked out great.
Nice. So last question I have for you is there a story or a memory you have, or maybe a compliment that you've gotten from somebody who comes to the chip that just kind of lives rent free in your mind that you'll always kind of have with you?
Oh gosh, I don't know if one stands out, but the one common thing that people generally say to me is, it's a getaway. I think you mentioned it earlier. It's a way for people to get away from their everyday lives, go somewhere with a lot of like-minded people, people who love music, people who love motorcycles, and just forget your life, forget your stress, have a damn good time. I think about it all the time. If I wasn't working at the chip, I would definitely be one of those people who came every year
Yeah.
because it's just such a cool experience to get together, do whatever you want for a couple of weeks, within reason,
Right.
but basically have whatever vacation you want. So that's what sticks out to me is like people continue to want to come here because there's a certain magic about this place. And some of it we can plan, some of it we can impart, but most of it is just the people that come here making their own magic. I mean, you go to everybody's campsite, everyone has their own, particular party going on.
Sure.
There's so much going on. You can create fun and give people a place to have fun, but they'll also create their own fun. And it's just so cool to me. So that's something I hear a lot from, customers and also from people coming to work. And I hope you had a good time while you're here this year as well.
Oh yeah, man. I've got some good memories. And I remember I left Sturgis with a smile on my face, and, I'm looking forward to coming back and doing it again. And, just experiencing it more, because that's the one thing I think is so overwhelming, is that there's so much to do all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't do it all. So you've got to come back next year and try something different,
Totally. Yep. Absolutely.
Well, Cody, thank you so much for the time. We appreciate it. And, maybe I'll see you next year.
Awesome. You are absolutely welcome back. But thanks for having me. I really, really enjoyed it.